On the video Louis Pasteur Destroys Darwin in Epic Rant, Jacob Pillivan wrote in and said, "Natural selection is a editor. New traits arise from mutation, horizontal transfer, recombination, and genetics, then selection acts on them. Why are you so stupid?" I feel like we're done here. Got bored and decided to go trolling, eh, Jacob? Pandemic quarantine got you down? You're not alone. Let's take these one at a time. Number 1. Yes! Natural selection is an editor. It only removes what already exists in a population. This is the exact opposite of evolution. 2. New traits don't arise from mutation. Mutation destroys previously existing traits by destroying already existing genetic information. Calling a disease state a new trait is a terrible conflation. Horizontal gene transfer cannot cause new traits because it cannot create new genes. Because, by simple definition, it is the transfer of existing genes from one bacteria to another, horizontally. 4. Recombination also does not make new genes, because it is the recombining of existing genes, which, again by simple definition, is not the creation of genes which did not previously exist, which evolution demands. 5. Any and all scientific observations in these matters fit within the biblical creation model, which would predict a greater diversity of perfect genetic information in the past in all populations, being shuffled, recombined, and eventually broken or lost over time due to mutations. It is the exact opposite of evolution. And 6. The reasons for my remarkable stupidity cannot be attributed to any single cause. No doubt the path which has led to my collection of misfiring and deeply troubled neurons, emotional instability, and childish confusion needs be the result of factors both genetic and environmental. My parentage would surely be the first foundational failure in acquiring me the genetic superiority necessitated for cerebral greatness. Without further genetic study, made impossible alas at this point due to the passing of the paternal line, one could only be capable of seeking the maternal line for genetic abnormality, though historically speaking, the long line of maternal genetics contains within it genes from both great men of engineering and also at least one well-known murderer, as well as a man known primarily as Uncle Grandpa for reasons too convoluted to tell here, but which I assure you are entirely real. The upbringing of my environment is also suspect in the search for causation, as the town in which I was raised was also the childhood home of the Unabomber and at least one former Miss America. The chemical contents of the local water supply should be studied for their neurological effects, especially in the developing brains of children. I was also the product of a public school education, spending my formative young adult years in the grip of government-controlled educational facilities which have neither the track record of success nor the systemic focus of causing an increase in intelligence, but rather a heavy-handed training to accept control by the system and an acceptance of whatever is handed down by the managerial powers. While unfortunately undocumented, certainly one potential cause of my inferior brain may be blunt force trauma. I was certainly dropped on my head as a young child more times than my mother cares to admit, and while still very young, I no doubt ran headfirst into a greater number of walls than I can personally remember. I spent a very short time as defensive tackle in football, and I was, as young sportsmen go, abysmal, ending up with my face in the mud under whole other teams and offering my teammates no cause for celebration. But external trauma may not be the only cause of mental inadequacies resulting from physical damage. For having pursued a career in science, I have participated in experiments both as teacher and student, which resulted in the release of no small amount of toxic chemicals. Having inhaled such pollutants, as I underestimate the importance of protective equipment, there has no doubt been chemicals eroding my sensitive gray matter until a shocking amount of it is no longer functional. And speaking of brains not functioning, it must be admitted that I have seen almost all of Adam Sandler's films, which is the cinematic equivalent of blunt force trauma to the head. So, why am I so stupid? Sadly, it'll take someone far smarter than I to conclusively answer that question. I don't know much, but I know Jesus loves you, and that may be all you need to know.